Welcome to a very special episode of Chillin with the Pool. I'm your host with the most, Pirate Master Deadpool Supreme, here alongside my wonderfully enigmatic co-host, Mr. Adam Warlock. Say hi to our viewers, Adam. What's good? What's good, homies? Maybe later we can ghost ride on the company whip. Okay, dude, you really need to start really working on that urban vernacular, dude. It is choppier than storm waters, yo. I'm sorry, I'm still practicing it. My skill set is still a bit rusty. What I mean to say was, greetings and salutations, fellow YouTubers, and welcome to our show. That was surprisingly better. I'll give you props for that. But anyway, today we'll be diving into a special episode of Chillin' with the Pool. Diving into a very special called Twisted Tales, which is basically Disney's version of What If, like from Marvel or DC's Elseworlds in a way, but featuring characters from the main DC canon. From the main Disney canon, I should say. Sorry. So sorry, that was breakfast. Anyway, today's story we'll be diving into is. Ta-da! Set in Stone. A twisted tale that tells the story of what would happen if Arthur Pendragon. Right over here. Just this. Excuse me for just a second. Yeah, there. Today's story is Set in Stone, which basically just tells the story of what if. Wow, lots of on a stand. Everything. Okay, yeah. Anyway, Okay, fine, close enough. Anyway, today's story basically dives into the story of what if Arthur Pendragon wasn't supposed to be king. Now, the story starts out as like your basic what ifs, poses the question, tells the and answers it in the full story mode. But what makes the story very special and very unique, in fact, is that it actually starts at the very end. Picks up where the original 1963 movie ended, with Arthur still being on the throne and consulting Archimedes, Merlin's wise owl, about what he should do now that he's become king. So he basically just starts out by answering the questions and the questions of the people. Solving dilemmas of chicken possession. Making your basic common sense choices that would affect the small term. However, a dastardly force reemerges himself in the form of the supposedly marvelous Madame Mim, otherwise known as Merlin's archenemy. Now, Madame Mim pretty much thrives in all things gruesome and grim. She's just eccentric and morbid. That's basically all you need to know about her. What this story does exceedingly well is boost her villain status up significantly. You see, she was only in the original 1963 version for about 20 minutes, and I'm not lying. It says right on her Disney Wikipedia page, she was only on screen for about 20 minutes. Now, of course, she gets you get a lot about her from those 20 minutes, and I'm not saying what they didn't do her with the 20 minutes was good or was bad or anything. It sets the stage for what she's about, what her motives. She's basically just an agent of chaos. Consider her to be like the Joker in a way. She just wants to watch the world burn. Yep, she has no real origin story, nor do I think she needs it. Her character is pretty much already morbid and grim anyway, so it's not. She's one of those kinds of villains that really doesn't need an origin story to begin with. It's like, I know that not every villain or character gets to be fleshed out or anything, but I think the lack of origin story for Mim here actually works well in her favor. As since she becomes the main antagonist of this book. So, in a real twist of fate, in the climax of the movie where Arthur removes the legendary sword in the stone, where the heavens open up and a choir of angels sing the praises like Arthur was like the second coming of Jesus. Well, in a sense, to the medieval people, he was. But turns out she had swapped out the original Excalibur with a sword from literally Disneyland. I am not kidding you. Disneyland. Where they have the sword and the stone display at Disneyland or some resorts and everything like that, where certain people get to pull the sword and everything. Well, guess what? She apparently swapped the real one with the fake one and used her magic to her magic to make it seem as though Arthur pulling it was entirely by fate. Can you believe that? You know, for being an eccentric nutcase, she really is like the Joker. Eccentric and kind of guano crazy, but there's a underlying sense of cunning and intelligence hidden but underneath it. She's as wily as a fox, so do not underestimate her, folks. She really doesn't is not something to be taken lightly. Now, do not be fooled by her eccentric and yet elderly appearance, because just like our heroes themselves, it's not what's on the outside, but what's on the inside that counts. And remember, looks can be deceiving. Okay, enough of all that. Anyway, Arthur basically finds out that Madame Mim sends her foster daughter Guinevere, hint hint, into spy on Arthur. But the more she gets to know Arthur, the more she realizes that he really isn't the maddened, tyrannical despot that Mim made him out to be. Instead, he's a kind, caring, light-hearted soul who originally didn't want to be on the throne, but the more the two end up spending time together and going on processing their adventure, that Arthur actually feels like he's grown a lot. And I think that's what was missing during the 1963 version, especially when it ended so abruptly. Arthur may have been in a different place than when he started physically, but personality-wise, he's still the same. He was still the same kid. This book helps to rectify that by giving him by completing his character arc and actually making him feel like a truly well-thought-out character, alongside Guinevere, who, while being a flawed protagonist, truly means well. She just was misguided, and keep in mind, they both are 13 years old after all, so they're still young and have a long way to go before they really reach maturity. Now, the best part about this book is that it also takes both Arthur and Guinevere using compilation of magic spells to the future. We only get to hear it mentioned or referenced by Merlin countless times in the original movie, but we never actually get to see them in the future until now. This book really sets it apart by transporting Arthur and Guinevere to the 2023's Bermuda and everything, where they see all sorts of fashion, technology, and beach, and all sorts of beach holiday. They enjoy themselves, ask a few questions, try to blend in with the surroundings until they find Merlin and everything. And after Merlin reveals that Mim had lied to her and lied to her for half of her life, Guinevere needs some time to think. So while she's out on the beach, gazing out at the horizon, I know, just picture a beautiful seaside sunset. Merlin actually turns Arthur into a mouse so that he can distract the nurse so that he could look up on the internet. And yes, I know I'm not making this up. This actually happened in the book, by the way. He turns him into a mouse, and he references Mickey Mouse in this. So after scaring away the nurse, Merlin probably poofs himself into his clothes using a certain spell called Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Yeah, he says that he learned it and turns out he time traveled to 18th century France. Said he befriended the certain fairy godmother there. She was very kind and sweetly, though had a thing about punctuality for some reason. Wink. The fact that he used it so vividly and descriptively lets the reader imagine that he and the fairy and Cinderella's fairy godmother have actually been friends. And I think Arthur and Cinderella share some similarities. They're both blonde, both kind-hearted. They're friends to animals, have mystical supporting cast, and were made of servants for their foster or step parents and siblings. So they kind of do share some similarities and everything. So I'm not gonna lie, the parallel match between these two is actually quite intriguing. Anyway, they share him, and what do you know, after talking and everything, Merlin reveals that Guinevere actually is the half-daughter of a fae, born of fae blood, of a fae and mystical bloodline on either of her parents' side, be it her mother or her father. But given the fact that it was 13th century, probably the medieval ages, I would probably shoot towards her mother, at the very least. But then again, it could be her father. Like I said, maybe that's just me. Anyway, Arthur and Guinevere console each other on the beach. She warms her. They share their first kiss on the beach on a sunset. Yep, two kids sharing their first kiss on the beach. Ah, to be young and in love. And then Merlin, thanks to the internet, and yes, he does reference the internet, use the internet, saying that Arthur was meant to be the chosen king of England. Unfortunately, thankfully, he does not mention all the tragedy that follows suit of this, but let's just say that's just mainline canon, whereas the Disney version is a clean slate. Something that, that actually does better, and everything, so to speak. So anyway, they return back to England, where Mim has using her shape-shifting abilities, has taken Arthur's place using his visage. Anyway, after she reveals the truth about Guinevere's true allegiance, Arthur is initially spirit-broken, but thanks to the support of the Saxon king and a heartfelt apology from Guinevere, Arthur regains his confidence and does his best to save the people from Mim's treachery. And who should arrive at the very end of the book but Guinevere's mother herself. And she has her guards fully arrest Madame Mim and take them back to the Somerset country to stand trial for her crimes. And because Guinevere's mother, or father, has fey blood, it means they're able to counteract Madame Mim's magic. So that'll be the last. So Madame Mim is promptly defeated and arrested. And she pretty much just goes off the wire. I mean, originally she turned into a dragon and everything, but after being vanquished by Excalibur, she is promptly arrested by Guinevere's birth mother, and history has once again been restored. And so thanks to another suggestion from Merlin, Arthur decides to hold an election in medieval England for the title of king. The Greeks technically invented democracy, but it's the modern age that had somewhat perfected it. And I use the term somewhat relatively loosely. So after vivid elections, and he gives his vote for Merlin, it turns out the people of England truly voted for Arthur to become their next king. After witnessing his compassion, his intellect, and his preference of brain or intellect over muscle, they decide that Arthur is the perfect king to lead their reality's England into a new golden age. And Arthur then comes to realize that some fates, especially one as glorious as his, really were set in stone. Hence the title of the book, Set in Stone. I really like this one because for me this didn't feel like a what if at all. It actually felt like an unofficial sequel to Sword in the Stone. And I quite like it, really. The original was great and everything, don't get me wrong, it was fun. It was really fun, and it was fun, but the ending felt so abrupt. It's like, where does Arthur's story go from here? And I think this book does a superb job of fleshing out the characters as well as the world, and with a few fun, and they actually take Arthur and Guinevere into the future. I cannot talk about that enough. Plus the minor Disney references scattered about here and there. It is just too fun. It is a load of fun. I think that's what the Sword in the Stone was. It was fun, a fun ride. And everything. So I highly recommend this book. If you're a Sword in the Stone fan, I highly recommend you check this book out. It's not so much a what if, it's more of a what could have been. So more like an unofficial sequel that dives more into Arthur's character and fleshes the new character and incorporates a reference of Morgan Le Fay, who is supposedly Arthur's half-sister from Arthurian mythology, but it's actually a pen name or disguised name for Madame Mim. And turns out her color, purple and lavender, is her familiar color. Like, you know how most witches and spellcasters usually have a familiar that tethers their magical essence to the current reality. Well, apparently Mim's color is purple and lavender, so it's pretty self-explanatory, but then again, for all the new viewers and viewers out there, that's it. So yeah, this is Set in Stone. I call it Sword in the Stone 2, Set in Stone. It's a very good read, and it makes and plus it really does feel like an extension of the original. Keeps the characters very consistent, concludes Arthur's character arc, bolsters Madame Mim's character up significantly, full of fun, thrills, chills, and all sorts of exciting spills around every corner, especially in medieval England. And it just goes to show that Arthur really was the medieval age's second coming of Jesus himself. He was kind. And they share similarities too. They were kind, compassionate, the prodigies of a higher power, and truly cared for the sanctity and well-being of all others more than just himself. All right, later, Dad. Sorry about that, guys. My dad was just leaving. Just leaving for the day. Anyway, But anyway, I really enjoyed reading this book, and it's like, I just felt that there was just so much The Sword in the Stone, the original, could have done, but I felt because of probably the budget and kind of the clunky production history, that I felt that they could only work with what they had. So now, thanks to this book, we now can have a full arc from start to finish. Especially Arthur. He really grew that much throughout the story of this book, diving really into his character and changing him for the better. Especially Guinevere, too. She went from being a flawed protagonist to supporting love interest. And Archimedes and Merlin are still as iconic as ever. Both grumpy old men who deep down have hearts of gold. So yeah, there's a lot I could say about this book. I mean, the writing is superb. I really did feel like I was visualizing. The writing is so superb, I actually felt like I was there in the Sword of the Stone movie, watching a continuation. And how I imagine this is basically just like the same, I'd say the art style like Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, where the art style and color palette resembles the original, but in a more 4K high definition, so to speak. They really did set the standard and stuff for that. I mean, it really did on a crisp feeling while still keeping the designs and stuff from the originals, but making it more updated, visually updated for a modern audience, so to speak. But yes, this book is truly something worth championing. And you can find this and many others twisted tales on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever books are sold in your area. So yeah. So yeah, basically Arthur. So that's what you call a fully fleshed out character arc. What do you think, Adam? I think that a wise king that does not listen to his subjects or to those closest to him is not worthy of being king at all. Truer words were never spoken, especially by Space Jesus himself. Again, I really do not understand that reference. Don't worry, man. You will one day. No doubt you will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps it up for today's episode of Chillin' with the Pools. So, hopefully, be sure to tune in next time. And if I don't see you before then, we at Chillin' with the Pool wish all our American viewers a very happy Thanksgiving. Indeed, and who knows? Maybe we might pop up and do a special Thanksgiving special. No book reviews, just a bit of a back and forth between the two of us. Wouldn't that be great, Pirate Master Deadpool Supreme? Hey, it's the internet. Anything can happen. So, until next time, true believers, I'm Pirate Master Deadpool Supreme, and I'm Adam Warlock, keeping it real in the his house. Hey, you actually used the urban vernacular right this time. But anyway, from all of us here, we wish all our American viewers a happy Thanksgiving, and we hope to see you next time. Excelsior. Oh, and hail to King Arthur, long live the king.